As we gather on this first Sunday of Lent, it seems this unfolding drama that takes place before us once again highlights the response that Jesus seems to display so often in the presence of the little people. People like this woman, caught in the act of committing adultery. She has no place in society. She has no voice to speak for herself. She was simply a weapon used by the religious leaders to endeavour to catch Jesus out. "What have you to say?" they asked him. And Jesus ignored them. Instead, he bent down on the ground and he started doodling. In this position, as he was on the ground, he would not stand over this woman in judgment, but rather knelt before her, looking up to her. Jesus had knelt before this woman accused, and by his posture, he had endeavoured to give this woman back the dignity that her world and society had taken from her by their accusations. But to the religious leaders, he would point an accusing finger. "The one who is without sin," Jesus said, "let them be the first to throw a stone." Hearing this accusation directed towards them, these religious leaders, these still sinful men, had been caught out by the very action of their lives. They could not accuse, they could not condemn, because they themselves had failed to abide by the laws of their own religion. So they simply walked away. All of this would unfold, and the dialogue between the religious leaders and Jesus would highlight the chasm of difference between the judgment of the world and the compassion of God that Jesus would provide by his words of healing and forgiveness. "Where are they?" Jesus asked the woman. "Then neither do I condemn you. Go away and sin no more." This great drama had ended, and this woman accused simply walked away and disappeared back into the crowd. Time and again, we find ourselves embroiled in such dramas within our own lives, and there is great consolation in hearing those words of Jesus spoken to the woman in the story, knowing that in our own times of failure, when we perhaps have not responded effectively to that call of God in our lives to be faithful, that those same words will echo in our minds as well. "Neither do I condemn you. Go away and sin no more." Like the woman in the story, we then can pick up our own lives and endeavour to begin again. Such is the great consolation that our God of love provides to all of us. We who are still sinful people. God forgives, and God enables us to go free and endeavour to begin again. This is perhaps an ideal story for us to reflect upon as we move towards the Passion event of Holy Week. And we hear those similar words from Jesus, but this time they're words spoken from the cross. "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." Still, even now, as he dies on the cross, Jesus speaks those same words of love and healing and forgiveness that the woman in our story has heard within her own life. Such are the actions of our God of love, spoken first to the ancient people of Israel as they journeyed through their own wilderness experience. God would be with them. And then the same words spoken to the world by the life and ministry of Jesus himself, as he set out to call people back into right relationship with God. And so it was to be from the cross as well, that this same desire of the forgiveness of God would shine forth as Jesus' life would come to an end. The very perfect sign of God's desire to forgive and to draw people back into that very relationship. All of that was in the past, and yet the passion, suffering, and death of Christ is echoed within our lives today, as we endeavour to open ourselves to that moment of encounter with our God, perhaps especially through the gospel stories of Jesus' life and ministry. For the words of healing and compassion spoken to the woman in that story also echo in our lives today. Neither do I condemn you. And our lives can begin again because of what the Lord has done for us. That is the event that we are about to enter into in the days that are ahead. The passion story of Jesus' suffering, death and resurrection hold within it those very words of God's healing forgiveness that are so freely offered to us in our lives. There's an old story that tells of a time when Jesus would ask the question, how much does God love us? Then from the cross, he would answer that very question. How much does God love us? This much, he would say, and stretched out his arms on the cross and died. As we prepare to enter into this passion event of Holy Week, it's worthwhile for us considering the significance of this saving event through which Jesus would pass to bring the very salvation to our world. For this is how much God does indeed love us, as Jesus stretched out his arms on the cross and died. And so our journey now enters into this passion event, perhaps reflecting upon the story of the woman who would be forgiven. It now draws us into the healing forgiveness that God provides to us through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. This is our story about to begin, and it is here we find that forgiveness of our God.